heavy rain keeps coming and going. The streets of Bruges are very wet. The umbrellas are up. And I can tell you it is cold and it is miserable. And that makes it a perfect Easter Sunday here in Belgium for the Tour of Flanders. Hello everybody, and a very happy Easter to you, and enjoy now this great race here in Belgium. It is indeed Belgium's biggest sporting moment of any calendar year. I'm Phil Liggett, this is Paul Sherwin. I now welcome you to Epic Cycle Sundays presented by Michelob Ultra. Paul, why is this race so special?
Well, you're asking somebody who's a little bit biased, Phil, because I loved this week of racing. The Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix packed within 7 days. You have to be a special kind of bike rider to like this race, because when you look out of the window and you see it's wet and you see it's raining, you know those cobblestones are going to be slippy. There will be crashes. There will be riders pushed off the road by the winds that buffet this part of the world. But if you are one of those bike riders who's motivated by this, you pull back the curtain from your bedroom, you look at the windows and you say, yes, this is the Ronde van Vlaanderen that I want.
Well, it's also the second round in the Pro Tour. It's over the classic distance of around 150 miles. It takes part in the deep hills of Flanders. There are 15 on the route. Paul, take us through the route a little bit. Slight change in the Molenberg, but basically the big hills are in the same order. Yeah,
all 15 climbs are still in the race, but to me it really all begins at climb number 4, the Old Quaremont. It's a tough climb, and that's where the race really starts to split up, setting them up for climb number 6, which is the Koppenberg, one that everybody is afraid of. Eichenberg comes halfway through, and then it's all down towards the end, the very, very famous climb of the Muur de Grammont. And if you're in the lead at the Bosberg with a minute on the front for everybody else, you're going to be the winner.
Yeah, that's the question. Who will be the boss of the Bosberg? Now, Lance Armstrong, as part of his Tour de France preparation, is here. And he's never ridden this race since 2005, the last year he won the Tour de France. He's here because this year in the Tour de France, the first week will be spent in the north of Europe and racing over cobble road. So great practice today for Lance. I don't think we can call him a favourite to win, but I can certainly give you 2 top Belgian names, Tom Bonen and Steen de Volder.
Yeah, Steen de Volder, defending champion, been chastised in the press recently by his team manager, Phil, because he only won 1 race last year, and that was, of course, the Ronde van Vlaanderen. He's going to have to do something special today to appease his team manager, Patrick Lefevre. But more importantly, for me, big number 1 favourite is Tom Bonen. He's won this race twice before. He's won 4 races so far this season. He is the darling of Belgium, and I think he's got better form than he's had before, and he's kept it very, very quiet just for today.
Well, the man that the Belgians fear most, I think, is the Swiss rider Fabien Cancellara. This man can do just about anything. Climb, time trial, wear the yellow jersey in the Tour de France, and many think can now win the Tour of Flanders. Other names too. What about Thor Hushovd? He's back on form now, and he's without his man that finished 2nd overall last year, Heinrich Hausler. And Heinrich now will be watching from the television, so it may be for Hushovd as well. And there's also Bernard Eisel of HTC Columbia, just winner of Gent-Wevelgem, and he says he's the man. Mark Cavendish is riding to support him, so we'll see. But there are also 2 Americans who have a real good chance of winning.
Yes, you know, you got to think about George Hincapie. He loves this week of racing. He's one of those specially motivated bike riders. Recently 4th in Gent-Wevelgem. Hincapie's on form, motivated and experienced. Younger rider Tyler Farrer, I think, has got a great chance. He's come up to form. I think he's come up to maturity this year as well, because he's already got himself a very good win under the belt. So watch out for that ride from Garmin Transitions.
Well, before we get down to the action, this is what it's like to ride in the Tour of Flanders. There's always danger on the narrow roads. This is the first crash. Lance Armstrong very lucky not to be brought down in this crash, but he survived, although a number of his Radio Shack boys were delayed. Nobody hurt there. 136 kilometres to go. Tyler Farrer in this one, and throwing his bike across the road in disgust, but he would change his bike. He would rejoin the main field. And then again, this is a little bit more serious because it happened right near the front. 108 kilometres to go, and the rider lying on the floor from Euskaltel Euskadi is Gorka Izagiri, and it looks as though he may have broken his collarbone. Now, let's join the action with those still in the saddle. We're looking now at the peloton here as they begin the climb, which is the 4th climb of the day of the Old Quaremont. They really have everything to race for. They put the peloton under pressure all day, Saxo Bank. They're chasing just 8 riders, and still as they start the climb, Stuart O'Grady on the left, they have Saxo Bank on the front. Cancellara in dead centre. These are the leaders, a 13-minute gap down to 1:37, and stepping on the pedals here is Floris Goossenen.
Well, I tell you what, you can see the crowds at the side of the road. It's been a massive battle to get to the front, and that's what Team Saxo Bank wanted to do. They wanted to get to the start of the climb in the front positions of the main field. Fabian Cancellara stuck in the middle. Alongside him, Mr. America, the champion of the United States, becoming one of the ambassadors of support. So that's George Hincapie.
Hincapie knows how to ride the race, and I think he might have the legs today. He's up for the fight, that's for sure now. But from now on, we go the ups and downs of the Flanders Hills. This is the fourth climb, but it's the one real big one of the day. This is Nicolas Rousseau in the breakaway, has thrown in the towel, and he's going back to the peloton. So as far as we know, we now have 7 riders left in the front group, but the pressure on from the back. Tyler Farrar had a problem. There's been 3 crashes. He was in the first one, wasn't injured, but took a while to rejoin, but rejoin he did.
Now the main field, Phil, starting this cobblestone climb, and once you get to the banner at the top that says the end of the climb, it isn't really, because it continues on as a false flat for 1.5 kilometers of cobblestones. It's a very difficult climb. The steepest part is right at the bottom of the climb. There you can see Rousseau coming back into the main field. Saxo Bank have been very dominant in their first attempt to get to the front of the climbs. Tom Bonen is in the first 10 or 15 positions. Fabian Cancellara, Matti Breschel there, the champion of Denmark, on the right-hand side. All very attentive because they know how important this race is. Matti Heyman is the rider from Team Sky in second position there, but he today will be riding for the Spanish rider Juan Antonio Fletcher.
Yes, and we haven't seen too much of Fletcher, but he is at the front, the open mouth of the Commonwealth Games champion. Second rider in our picture, Matthew Heyman. Hasn't won a race since the Commonwealth Games, but he's a very strong team rider. New team for him, Team Sky this year. As you look down now, the chaos down the bunch here.
Funny that the Tour of Flanders being led by 2 Commonwealth Games road race champions, because it seems like an awful long time ago that Stuart O'Grady won that title.
Yes, very good point.
O'Grady on the front, and he won that title in Manchester, just took off and nobody could match him at all.
That was at the height of his career as a professional, and O'Grady today has ridden like his old form here. He's been ever present at the front of the race, and he's really hurting the people. Looks as though Robbie McEwen in trouble there as he slides down the line here. This is Julian Dean, who got Tyler Farrar back into the race, but he's now struggling. Lance Armstrong, we haven't seen him recently in the last 5k, but he has been riding a very clever race. He's never been far away from the trouble at from the head of the race. He just missed out in the third crash. They fell behind him, which was a great relief. And he looks to me, Paul, as though he's up for the fight today.
He is up for the fight. He likes these races. He likes the motivation, the energy around a race like the Ronde van Vlaanderen to give it its proper title. There's Tom Bonen, the Belgian national champion. Just sitting here and looking at this, Phil, it doesn't look as if they're going very fast, but when you see the damage that's being done at the back end of the main field, those guys like O'Grady and the other boys on Team Saxo Bank are handing out a phenomenal pace.
That was a brief look at the leaders there, with Floris Gusen and a skilled Shimano rider looking over his shoulder. Remember, not selected for the Tour de France, and they're pretty upset about that this week when Team Sky and Team BMC were named as wildcards. As we look now at all of the pain being caused by Saxo Bank, they're doing everything they can to set up Fabian Cancellara, or is it Matti Breschel? We'll find out. Matthew Heyman doing the same for Team Sky. They got the wildcard selection into the Tour de France, so they no longer need to impress the organisers, but they've ridden a good race today.
Well, that's the damage that was done by the ascent of the Old Quaremont by the leading group of riders. You can see 1 or 2 riders tailed off, but the gap now down to 1 minute and 49 seconds. They'll turn onto this massive big road, but Phil, there's only then 3 kilometers from the top of the Old Quaremont before they start the Paterberg, which is a climb that has a maximum gradient of 20%.
Very, very steep indeed, or 1 in 5 in old terms. Just look at Stuart O'Grady, this great Australian cyclist. He really is. When he's not injured, he's really very, very good. And Matt Heyman the same. Heyman also looking extremely strong there, mouth wide open, concentrating, responding to the crowd here. The flags of Flanders flying high in the sky. They're nearly at the top. I'd like to see the back of the peloton right now.
Well, I wouldn't like to be in the back of the peloton because that would certainly hurt because of the pressure dished out by these teams who are being very attentive.
It looked like Farrar was at the front end of the main field. It looks a little bit further. There's Lance Armstrong as well, Phil, with a yellow Livestrong helmet on, sitting in the first 15 to 20 riders. He's obviously feeling as if he's going to enjoy his Ronde van Vlaanderen today.
He's in a very, very good position here. Look at the cobblestones, the way they rattle your very bones here. As the riders coming off the back of the course now, well, sort of coming off the back of the course, they've got to close the gap to those leaders now, and it's not easy. There's cracks forming all of the time right now. Sebastian Rosseler tagged on the back there still for Radio Shack. He's had his problems today. Every time he gets up to the back of the bunch, they go up a hill and he's in trouble again. So as we look down then, we're seeing the chase very much on. The leaders are down to 7 and the time gap a minute 43. Welcome back to Belgium for the 94th edition of the Tour of Flanders. At the start this morning, we did mention that Lance Armstrong was here. Well, it seems everybody knows it. Look at the scrum as Lance comes to sign in this morning. Well, Paul Sherwin was amongst it, and here he is now talking with Lance.
Well, Lance, you haven't been to the Tour of Flanders for a long time. Have you forgotten this kind of atmosphere?
It's always this way. I mean, look at this square here in Bruges. I mean, it couldn't have a more beautiful start. Of course, the weather didn't really cooperate, but epic race. I mean, it's one of the true beauties in cycling, so it's fun to be here and experience it.
You've said that you wanted to experience it this year, really, because it's part of your preparation up to the cobbles in the Tour de France later in the season.
I think it's important. I mean, it's one thing to go and see those sections from the Tour, which, you know, checking the course, you have 7 sections in the last part of the race. It'll be decisive. But it's also another opportunity to check equipment. I think equipment is evolving on the pave, and you know, in the old days we rode big, heavy Classics wheels, and now we're riding deep dish rims, and see how they react. And you don't want to get caught out on the 3rd stage this summer.
The weather is nasty though, lads, and you've always done great performances in the wind and rain like this. Will you be okay today?
I don't know. I used to do great when I was younger. Now it's, you know, I can't lie. I open the curtains and I say, shh, it's raining.
Well, I must say, Paul, he did well to get in amongst it this morning with Lance, but he's not so keen on the bad weather, it seems, these days.
You know, I think he's always a man who likes to hide his game. He will try hard in this race today in the Tour of Flanders, and he will try and get over those cobblestones with the leaders if he can.
They are on the slopes now of the Koppenberg. These cobblestones, they can hardly get out of the saddle. It is so steep. And in fact, this is the leader of the 4 survivors of the break, Gussinen, who seems to be sitting on that saddle and pulling away. As we draw down to the bottom, the peloton, for the first time in the best part of 200 kilometres, have the head of the race in their sights. And they are all there and battling for places.
Second place there, Tom Bone and Matty Breschel up alongside him. These riders now, the way to ride this is you've got to sit down, you've got to be a powerhouse, you've got to have a big engine to get up a climb like this, but you've also got to avoid the damp part of the climb, because that's when you start to get tyre slip. Once you lose momentum and stop, you can't get on your bike again. You've got to walk to the top. Look at Bonen and Breschel here.
Well, Bonen's no good and bad sides of the Koppenberg in the past, but he's right up at the sharp end right now. A trouble for the B-box rider who can't get his rhythm at all. The quickest way is to get off and walk and even run and jump back on over the top. The camera belies just how steep it is. That gives you a better idea. This is a real struggle. That was Gussinen, who's going to be first over the top.
Well, somebody's often walking or running, I have to say, and once you lose the momentum, this climb, Phil, to put it into perspective, it is so steep you can't get going again. You just cannot get back on the bike. You don't have the power or the gears to get going. And if somebody said to me this morning there wasn't going to be any wind in Belgium today, look at the Flemish line flags.
And look at Matty Breschel here and Tom Bonen, who've tamed the Koppenberg here. They've gone over the top together. Bonen is looking immensely strong today. Matty Breschel is actually saying that he is the man to win for Saxo Bank and not Fabian Cancellara. And right now, it's Breschel who's playing his card, the champion of Denmark.
And Bonen right up there alongside him. This is quite strange. We've got the 2 big teams that we talked about, Phil, before the start of the race. Saxo Bank with 2 leaders. Quickstep with 2 leaders. Now, which way was the tactics going to work out? I wonder what Fabian Cancellara will do.
Well, there's still a lot of big names that can counter this move, and not least Thor Hushovd.
Hincapie was still in that group of riders with Fabian Cancellara, so not too far off the mix.
And this is the chaos. These boys only just contacted the Bonen group at the base of the climb, and now they've been split off again, so another chase will ensue at 70 kilometres to go.
If you're looking for a yellow helmet, though, there it is, and that is Lance Armstrong. He's not too far away. He's got himself over the Koppenberg, so he's still pretty much in contenders with some of the top riders in the Ronde van Vlaanderen here this afternoon.
Well, I have to say, we've seen chaos, but I think this is the year that we've seen a lot of chaos in this race. It's been really tough for the riders to hold position, and so far it has all been hats off to the Saxo Bank squad, who have caused most of the trouble.
The damage is what they cause. Look, this is what's happening over at the right-hand side. That's the rider from B-Box, and once you get stuck in the side of the road, you can't get your bike going again. You've got to walk to the top. That's why this climb we're talking about here, can I remind you, this is still only climb number 6 of 15. There's still some brutes of Flanders to come before we get to the end.
Just struggling there as well once again is Lars Back from HTC Columbia. Now all of these boys have come to a stop. You can virtually write off their hopes now, because by the time they get to the top, by the time they remount, they will have very little hope of catching up, and it looks as though David Miller is in the thick of the trouble there.
Well, this is it's an unbelievable climb. It was taken out of the Tour of Flanders a few years ago, and a little anecdote, by the way, because Lance Armstrong came to ride this climb the other day in training, and it was repaved, and some of the old cobbles were held back, and one of them was given to Armstrong as a present. I wonder if he'll have to worry about excess baggage.
I think he'll pass it back after this, but he has gone over in a pretty good position, Lance, and with a little bit of hard work with the group he's in, they could contact the leaders again. Now we can only go where our cameras take you, and at the moment we have 4 leaders. We have a chase of Bonen and Breschel, and then back to the first serious chase group.
The brown shorts at the back there of the AG2R rider, well, that is Nicolas Rousseau. He's one of the riders who was in that 8-man breakaway. A change of fortune, really, from the front of the race to the back.
So as the riders continue to reorganize themselves to just take a look at each other and find out who is where and who is missing, and the answer is Bonen and Breschel are missing at the moment. They should be the first 2 riders to contact the breakaway, but as we look down here, Bonen is in this group, so he's got a few others around him now for company. Well, as the riders head to the next sector of cobbles, we'll take a break, but when we come back, we'll have a closer look at the next big American Classics hopeful. And I'm talking, of course, about Garmin Transitions' Tyler Farrar.
First, I think he thought he was more of a classics rider. Now he, I think, has accepted that he's a little bit more of a sprinter and is focusing on that. So now that he's focusing on that, you know, he's becoming more and more successful at it.
The classics are still my favorite races in the world. There's something special about a one-day race where it's just all or nothing. It either goes all right or it goes all wrong, and there's a certain element of just sheer luck involved in it, and there's always a little bit of chaos, but I think at the same time it creates quite a spectacle. As a spectator and as a racer, they're just cool races.
And welcome back to the Ronde van Vlaanderen. And yes, Tyler Farrar has always expressed an admiration for these classics, and after missing them last year due to injury, he has high motivation this time out. Let's take a closer look at Tyler Farrar on today's Michelob Ultra Athlete Profile.
2009 couldn't say anything less than a breakout year for me. I had an inkling of it, kind of the way I was riding it towards the end of 2008. I was really making some big progression throughout the season. I could feel that I was really developing, and then I had a new experience racing day in, day out against the best guys in the world. It seemed to go well.
Tyler Farrar had the definition of a breakout season last year, and it was really cool to watch. He hasn't skipped a beat.
The thing with Ty is he's got a huge work ethic, and he really wants it. I have a huge amount of faith in the Ty's. Ty's going to be one of the huge names in the sport for the next decade.
He's a young rider. He's been working his way up slowly and steadily, you know, finding out what he was. You know, first I think he thought he was more of a classics rider. Now he, I think, has accepted that he's a little bit more of a sprinter and is focusing on that. So now that he's focusing on that, you know, he's becoming more and more successful at it. Is it a little bit unexpected that he's performing at that high level? Absolutely, but you know, it's great. We're psyched to be, you know, sort of building a team around him.
You know, I'm feeling really good about this season. Obviously, like I said, last year was a breakout year for me, and you know, I proved to myself that I'm ready to race at that level. So, you know, now I hope I can continue like that. If you go back and watch a video, I made a lot of progression tactically between the Giro and the Tour and then the Vuelta. Just learning how to race at that level, learning how the sprints unfold. So I hope that that's going to kind of pay off this year a little bit. And then the rest is just having the legs. And, you know, it's hard to say until you're in the race in the moment if you will have those legs. But I've had a solid winter, so I'm optimistic.
Well, let's hope, Paul, that all of Tyler's problems are behind him in the Classics. He had that bad crash when he broke a knee in Ghent-Wevelgem. Last year he had a problem in Milan-San Remo when he separated his shoulder. But he's looking very mature and very confident now.
I think he has matured. He's become a big rider now, especially with a victory in Belgium just a couple of days ago in the 3 days of La Panna. That shows he's got the confidence to race on these kind of cobblestones. And, of course, I think winning a stage of the Vuelta a España last year, Phil, he's now on top of his game.
So again, as we pick up the peloton here, the gap now is 37 seconds of 3 leaders. They're closing in. Lance Armstrong is at the back of this group. He has come across with no trouble at all. You can just see him there, tagged on to the rear of the field, as we've got the Sky Boys now pushing for Juan Antonio Fletcher.
Well, Fletcher right in there. Chris Sutton is in this group as well. And there you can see moving around the outside. It's the Lotto squad. This is the Steenbeek Dries. Only 700 meters long. Its maximum climb is 7%. The average is 5%. George Hincapie is in this group as well. So is Tyler Farrar. But amazingly, just a little bit further up, you can see Lance Armstrong enjoying his Easter Sunday.
So far of the big names, we're still looking to see if Thor Hushovd has made the split and Stein de Volder, because there are 2 riders we haven't seen much of in this last half hour of racing, but all the rest seem to be here, and Armstrong has really read it well. Hard work being done here. They're trying now to force an issue where we have about 25 riders slowly pulling clear. How those breakaways are staying clear of this race, I really don't know right now, because they've been in front for just on 200 kilometers, and the 3 of them are still holding 32 seconds.
You've got to love the organisation, Phil, because there's 2 kilometres only separating the top of the Steenbeek Dries and the Tyenberg, and theoretically this is not a cobblestone section of the route, but looking from our height in the sky here, it would appear to me that those are cobblestones down there.
And thankfully we're across that railroad crossing because it's unguarded and they wouldn't be stopping the train today. So the leaders are through, the breakaway is through. Only a half a minute gap now between them. Even our cameraman now, and goodness, you've got to say well done to the camera boys, how they keep up with the action and hold that camera so steady on these roads. I really don't know.
Well, the next climb is also one of the very steep climbs of the Ronde van Vlaanderen, Tour of Flanders. It's the Tyenberg. It's almost 16%. Bonen there, you can see in his national champion of Belgian jersey, riding in about 8th position, black, yellow and red. George Hincapie, American national champion, he's right in there. There's Tyler Farrar just picking his way through there. Fabian Cancellara, all of the big names right up here.
Tom Bonen looking a little bit calmer now. He was making a huge effort earlier on, but Roger Hammond, who's also ridden well in this race in the past, the British rider, he is now tagged on to the back of this group. It looks like Roger may be having another good day in a classic.
Well, he's one of those rare English riders who can speak Flemish perfectly. He's spent a lot of his time living here in Belgium, so he knows this race and he gets motivated by this race. And I think, again, we talked a little earlier about George Hincapie's motivation for races like this. There's Hincapie. Look at that. In 5th position again, Phil. Today feels to me like a very special Tour of Flanders because there's a battle for every cobblestone section. Hincapie going round there right on the wheel of Fabian Cancellara.
Well, the pattern can change so quickly, you don't know when things are going to go wrong. Here are the 3 leaders, still just about out of sight here now as we start the next climb, and it's Goossenen. He really climbs very well. This is the Tyenberg, the cobble brute again, and he just puts his head down and just thinks of those pedals as pistons, and he pushes on them. And Ignatieff just behind him as well.
Sky organised 1, 2, 3 at the front end of the main field, and that's for Juan Antonio Fletcher, hoping to be the first Spanish rider ever to win the Ronde van Vlaanderen. In the middle, Matti Breschel. There's so many national champions riding at the front end of this group. This really is the creme de la creme.
There are 4 right here. Breschel, Denmark, Cancellara, Switzerland, Hincapie, USA, Bonen of Belgium, and they're right on the sharp end. This is an incredible event.
Phil, I've always loved this event, but I've got a feeling there's something special going to happen this afternoon. I've got some serious goosebumps going down my back.
Well, we're looking down at Breschel, who seems to be immensely strong here as he continues. He looks round, he looks straight into the face of Bonen. Fletcher is on the left of our picture in the black jersey. The big favourites are not making mistakes, but I haven't seen the winner for the past 2 years yet, de Volder.
Well, De Volder struggled after winning this race last year. He won it 2 years in a row, and then all of a sudden he went on to be a possible Tour de France top 10 contender. He failed there. He's really suffered to find the form that brought him to this win last year. He's looking at, well, you were talking about him, Phil. Here he is, and he's in the wrong position.
And he's moving forward very rapidly here. He's just scooting past there, Liggett, the Frenchman on Radio Shack, rapidly closing gaps. He may have got caught in the back group. He's making his way through as best he can just now.
Well, this is a man trying to get himself back into the race. There's Armstrong over on the right-hand side, so we are in the leading group. De Volder has pulled himself inside out, Phil, to get himself back into the race. Stewie O'Grady there just slipping back, but I don't think we'll complain about that after the work that he's done.
No, incredible day out for O'Grady. There he is, 178. He's going to hang on as long as he can now and then make his best way home as he can. Meanwhile, up here with the leaders now. I wonder if the message has got through. Stijn de Volder's coming up.
Philippe Gilbert on the front now, just looking over his shoulder. He's a great tip for the French-speaking part of Belgium to possibly get the victory here this afternoon. He's certainly not afraid of the cobblestone classics at all.
So no decision on the Tyenberg, but all of the favourites seem to be right in the pack, and nobody giving away just how strong they are just yet. From the cobbles of the Ronde van Vlaanderen, don't forget next Sunday, Epic Cycle Sundays will continue as Michelob Ultra presents Paris-Roubaix. It'll come to your screens next Sunday at 6 Eastern. Gear up and see the world's best cyclists take on those punishing cobblestones of northern France. And the question, can Tom Boonen win for a fourth time? Or will George Hincapie finally capture his first? That's Paris-Roubaix next Sunday at 6 Eastern, only on Versus. And talking of George Hincapie, he really is one rider who looks forward to Paris-Roubaix, and he's on a new team this year. The BMC rider has always had a love-hate relationship with the classics throughout his entire career. Well, earlier this morning, Paul Sherwin caught up with Big George.
Well, George, nice to see a smile on your face with weather conditions like this.
Yeah, I mean, what you can only just, if you don't laugh, you cry, but it's going to be an epic day. You know, for everybody. And I got good legs. I hope that I can have some good luck and be there with the best at the end.
A new team for you, but a great performance last week in Gent-Wevelgem. That must give you a little bit of confidence going forward.
Absolutely. I started the year a bit slow. I was a little bit sick coming over to Europe, but I started San Remo. I started feeling better. Gent-Wevelgem, I felt back to normal and hoping for even better today.
A lot of people look at these races and think they're totally mad, but for some reason over the last few years, you've been motivated by Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix. Tell me why.
Maybe it's the insanity of these races. You know, it's almost impossible to describe how hard and how intense they are. And I believe that's one of the reasons, or some of the reasons, why I really enjoy them.
All right, George, good luck today.
Thank you.
Well, George, like a lot of riders this time of the year, been a little bit sick, Paul, but he seems to have shaken it off. And that ride, as you said, he's just done in Gent-Wevelgem. He's got his form back for the classics, bang on schedule.
Bang on schedule. It would be good for his morale to have got that performance a couple of days ago. But I think when you talk about a race like the Tour of Flanders, Phil, it's about age, experience and fitness. And Hincapie has got all of those.
As we hit the cobbles of the Eichenberg now at 60 kilometres to go, there is the spread of the Tour of Flanders, and Matthew Heyman of Team Sky is bringing up a very select bunch of riders to the three survivors of a breakaway that has been in front now for 200 kilometres.
That is an awful long way, but we're looking here, Phil, at one of the changes in the route of the Tour of Flanders this year, because the Eichenberg has been brought forward. It's coming straight after the Tyenberg. We're basically on the same range of hills that we zigzag, and the Tour of Flanders has zigzagged it in many different ways over the years, but this year they've decided to pull the Eichenberg in and put the Molenberg a little bit further down the road. Now, between the Eichenberg and the Molenberg, there's 3.5 kilometres of cobblestones. This is a hard climb on its own, but once you look at the 3.5 kilometres of cobblestones afterwards, there's going to be a bit of fireworks here.
And thereby lies the thought, I think, behind Tom Boonen today, who said he thought the course was made tougher because of it, and that's why he tried to split this race up, at least reduce it in size, because trouble on the next section of cobblestones and you probably won't rejoin the riders. The face of the youngster here, Floris Gussinen, and alongside him Ignatiev, former world junior champion, former world under-23 road race champion. But it doesn't matter about reputation. He's now back in the front group with 60 kilometres to ride. The front peloton is all together.
And one man who's had a very hard time, Stijn de Volder, he was caught out by one of the splits at the back end of the race. He, with his Belgian Flemish courage, has battled himself back into this race because it is the Tour of Flanders. It is the biggest sporting event that Belgium has on their calendar, and it is for the Flandrians the most important race of the year.
And for Goossenen, he just won't give up. He's going to try and be first over the top again. Unhitching just a little bit here at the back is Geoffrey Liggett, who is now on Team Radio Shack. He's done well to hold on in there. He's still yo-yoing.
Pretty funny, his name is Geoffroy Le Quatre, and the last number of his race number is 4, which is 4 in French.
Geoffrey the 4th. Yes, and it looked as though it was in fact Vincenti Garcia Acosta who was slipping off the back just ahead of him there. But Goossenen refuses to acknowledge that he's got to go into second place in this race right now. He's still staying at the front. They're switching with Mikhail Ignatieff, while the boys from Team Sky just get on with the job and just keep Fletcher in a good position, ready for any move that the likes of Farrar, Bonen, or even Hushoff, although I haven't seen Hushoff just now. I'm not sure he's in there.
Well, Stuart O'Grady at the back there, 178. He keeps yo-yoing up to the front and then slipping to the back of this pack. And the reason for that, Phil, is he, along with a lot of the other riders on Team Saxo Bank, have done a phenomenal amount of work this afternoon to make this race a tough race. To make this race, I think, one that's going to be a race of survival down towards the end.
Just look at this man here, Mikhail Ignatieff from Team Katusha. Robbie McEwen started, but he's been in trouble. He's dropped off on the climbs. He doesn't live very far away from where the race finishes either. But they're off that climb now, and they've got to be very careful here. They want to get down that little guttering. That's where we've had a couple of crashes. Team Radio Shack are well listed here at the front at the moment. They've got 3 or 4 riders up here.
Well, they're well represented, but riding much further towards the front of this group with his yellow standard helmet on is Lance Armstrong. He's still in here.
So 59 kilometers to go. For the first time in 200 at the front end is all together, and as they say, everything to race for.
Flanders is the most special, the most beautiful race for me. My goal is to win Flanders, and now I'm working on that, and I will try as much as I can to be fully prepared and get the best performance until this day.
Oh, what's happened here?
Cancellara's got a problem, and an incident for Cancellara here as he is at the back.
Hand is up. Fabian Cancellara, the big favourite for today's Ronde van Vlaanderen, has his hand up and he needs help pretty quickly here. Armstrong has gone right to the front of that group now. An amazing piece of riding, and the Team Sky are pushing. But now he's talking to the team. Does he have a puncture or what?
Well, he's got some kind of mechanical problem there. The mechanic is out of the car. It's very difficult on these cobblestones to try and figure it out. Kurt Atler Arvidsson, amazing. He was suffering at the back end of the race over the older Quaremont. He's recovered. Roger Hammond over on the right in the black jersey, Cervelo test team. These are a section, Phil, of 3 cobblestones patched together. 1,500 metres of the Holloweg, followed by 800 metres of the Roterstraat, followed by 1,800 metres of the Kirkgate, and that's just to take the riders over to the old Molenberg.
This is the part of the course that Tom Bonen was particularly afraid of, and that's why he's riding pretty near the front of this group. Also in this group is the HTC Columbia rider Bernard Eisel. And there's 1 or 2 surprises up here, I think, as well. Riders you may not have expected to see, particularly the French riders who are having a tremendous start to the season. This is life in the convoy now, and whatever was wrong with Fabian Cancellara, he's getting a little bit of an illegal leg up here. He'll have to get out of that pretty quickly.
Well, his teammate there has come back, Stuart O'Grady, over on the right-hand side. He wants to know what's up with you, Fabian, and this is not necessarily the right time to have a mechanical incident. This is the race that Cancellara has said all year that he really wants to win. I can't see his problem.
Well, he came back and he talked, but I don't think he's changed anything at all. There's the leading group. It's around about 25 riders. I think the rest of it is now out of the hunt. Armstrong has been appearing very strong in this group. And now Cancellara, his team trying to take him through here. Referees will keep a close eye on it, but they won't do anything about it at the moment. He's bordering on the illegal, but I think it'll be. I wonder, are they going to try and go ahead of the race?
They're trying to find a place where he can change his bike. The team car came up to have him in contact as much as possible. Watch this pro descent there. He got it off his bike like a cyclocross rider. Mechanic round the front of the car. They were preparing themselves for this. He realised
8 seconds.
It's almost like Formula 1, an 8-second bike change.
Did he fuel up as well, I wonder? Well, Cancellara on a fresh bike, which is all sized up for him, ready for just that situation. The big man is stomping on those pedals again and ripping himself back up to the leaders. I think he's got away with that one, and he's not going to lose ground. He's just banging on the car there, warning the neutral service to let him through.
But how calm was he at that time? He waited for the team. He discussed it with the team, what he was going to do, how he was going to handle that. He waited because he knows we're looking, Phil, at around about 3.5 kilometres of cobblestone sections here, bolted together.
Gosh, and this morning in the press room, the journalists were saying anybody who has trouble on this section of road will be finished as far as this race goes. Who has trouble? The outstanding favourite, Cancellara, and he's getting back.
But the calmness of the team manager, the calmness of the mechanic, that's the important thing. You've got to be well drilled. You can't panic in a moment like this, because if the rider starts to panic, it scares the mechanic. The mechanic makes a mistake. He drops the bottle, he drops the bike. But that was so well carried out.
Yep.
It was almost perfect.
Totally premeditated. 8 seconds I counted as he was back and running again. Now Cancellara at the moment, no need to panic too much. He's got the tail of the peloton in sight. He can just pedal himself back up. He chose the best possible place, I feel, there to make that change, and he's done it well. So 55 kilometres to go. Cancellara back in the bunch, and from this angle it looks quite a big bunch, doesn't it? We are now on the Molenberg. It's only 300 metres, but we've had a nasty stretch as we've come across from the Eichenberg, and at the moment 4 riders trying to forge a lead: Os, Heyman, Eisel and Venens, but it's still very, very touch and go.
Forget about the 4 men in the lead. As soon as they went round that corner, a certain Tom Bonen came across the gap. He crossed the 10-second gap in no time at all, and there he is. Look, that amazing style of his. He's punching the bike, he's punching the pedals. On the left is Fabian Cancellara. This could be the turning point. This is what they talked about. This is why the organisation have moved it in.
Well, Cancellara is now really turning a screw here, and it comes to the time when his teammate Breschel has not rejoined the group after his problem, and now this is going to open it up. And Bonen realises straight away that fabulous Cancellara is attacking. So we've got the 2 big favourites now clear over the top of the Molenberg.
And we're looking at 44 kilometres to go. The 2 big favourites before the start of this race have decided, right, now's the time to move. Fabian Cancellara has gone with Bonen. There is Fletcher. Hincapie's in there. Eisel is in there. And this is the damage that's been done by the Molenberg.
Well, there's got to have to be a big organisation now for the top teams, because this is a very serious move by Cancellara. Tom Bonen was up for it. He's looking very, very strong. Bonen is twice a winner of this event and looking to join historically those who've won 3.
I notice Armstrong in that group just behind, but this is a powerful, brave move. And who is going to organise the chase behind these 2 super favourites before the start of this event? This man, Fabian Cancellara, has been champion of the world in the individual time trial. He's had the yellow jersey. He's won Paris-Roubaix. He said at the start of this year at the training camp for Team Saxo Bank, I only want to win 1 race this season.
Yeah.
That is the Tour of Flanders. Well, he's got a good chance now.
Well, he's just called Tom Bonen through, and Bonen won't come through at the moment. He's just on the rivet. He cannot push it on. Looks like he just grabbed a bottle off the right-hand side of the road there as well, Bonen. There is a select little group. Can it organise itself now? Remember, Cancellara is the greatest lone riding expert in the world, the most accomplished, and Bonen possibly the best sprinter. And if he's not going to work, what's Cancellara going to do?
I think he just needs to catch his breath, because that was a serious advantage. These 2 riders bridged the gap to a 4-man leading group on the climb of the Molenberg. Tom Bonen, probably a fraction into the red zone now, has recovered and he's moving to the front. The organisation now, you've got Fletcher in 2nd place, Hincapie in 3rd place, Eisel in 4th place there. These guys have got to get themselves organised if they're going to pull back those guys. Leading the charge behind is Lance Armstrong on that 3rd group on the road.
The bridge is coming across to this very select little group of riders here. Now George is also going to have to concern himself here. He was on the same team, don't forget, of Eisel last year, HTC Columbia. Now they're rivals, although they're still good friends. Now let's have a quick span across the road. There is the Tour of Flanders. Somebody has thrown a bomb in the pack. They are spread across the Flanders flatlands now, shortly to become the Flanders Hills again.
Well, can I just tell you one thing, Phil? Thanks very much to the organisation for switching the Molenberg round, putting those cobblestones in the middle, because I reckon they've got a pretty good recipe here now.
Well, this has been a great race from the start today. The peloton has never been together, never been content. These 2 top men, the 2 favourites, joint favourites at the start, are now leading the charge with 43 kilometres to go to the finish. Tom Bonen. I think at the moment he can do nothing but hang on to the flying back wheel there of Fabian Cancellara.
But these two men have got a similar capacity. They've got the similar ability to ride hard in a race like this, Phil. So they won't hold anything back. They will try and duke it out later on. They will make this their chance of a crack at winning the race.
We have a Swiss-Belgium tandem on Easter Sunday in Flanders. Will they stay away? Now that's a question. This is Leberg now. This will leave 4 climbs are still to come. The terrific duo, the 2 pass winners of Paris-Roubaix, are now trying to stamp their authority right here on the Tour of Flanders. They've edged out a little bit, 22 seconds, but there's now a chase group forming. George Hincapie is in it, David Miller is in it, and Stijn de Volder, last year's winner and the years before, is in it. But he can't chase because Tom Bonen up front's his teammate.
Well, 2 riders in it from Lotto Pharma as well, because on the front is Leif Hostel. Just in the 4th position is Philippe Gilbert. Gilbert tried to jump across the gap on his own, and I thought that was the wrong tactic. And what it did was it put everybody under pressure. And once Gilbert got caught, they had to have a little bit of respite in the main field, and that's why the gap has gone up to 25 seconds. These are the faces of 2 men who've decided to take the risk of going for a long escapade in this race this afternoon. Former world champion Tom Bonen on the left-hand side there takes a bottle from a friend or supporter from the side of the road. He probably knew that bloke, but this is a long way out. It's a brave move, and if it succeeds, it will have been a heroic move.
The flotilla now of motorcycles come around the 2 leaders here on the narrow roads of Belgium. The 2 top favourites of the day have projected themselves very early on. 37 kilometres to go. We've still got 4 big climbs to come, and this chase group, which has organised itself through the impetus of Miller, who is now sat at the back with the orange top on his jersey, are now still far from out of this race, but it's coming as though they're the only people now who have any chance of altering the result.
Well, de Volder's got a big part to play in this race now, Phil. He just has to sit behind everybody and break up the organisation of any chase. That rider is Steve Scheinel from B-Box, and he's a rider who's risen to fame this year because this is really one of the first years he's starting to do much.
It is absolutely right. He's only won 3 races in his life, and the race he won this year was this week in the 3 days of the Panna, when he opened up with the first day win, and he held the lead for that day, of course, as well. Now these riders, and Lance Armstrong is also right on the front, beginning to look a little bit beaten, I feel, just here, as they begin to think that the chase and the 2 leaders are now the races for first place. Armstrong has ridden well. He should be pretty happy, I think, with the way he's gone today, and he's still willing to set the pace. But I think we've seen the last of Lance and this group at the sharp end of the race. 25 seconds now the gap between the first 2 groups. I suppose you call 2 riders up front a group.
I certainly would, and especially a possible winning group. Down to 24 seconds. It's come the other way now, but just around the corner, once they go through the small town of Mikkelbeek, they will start the next climb number 12 of the day, and that is the Berendries.
Fabian Cancellara, there's no question he's doing most of the work in this group, and he's doing a much faster cadence when he gets there. We're into Elst now. 36 kilometres from the finish, looking for the last 4 climbs, and of course the penultimate climb is the Muur de Grammont, and it looks as though David Miller, he's so anxious to reach these leaders, he's going to make a profit of his great form. Miller is now pushing on, and he's causing a reaction.
Well, the reaction's coming from Stijn de Volder. He will pull everything back here. His job today is completely different to his job of last year, when he was the man out on the attack and having Tom Bonen get locked up in the chase group behind it. This is where all of a sudden Team Quickstep are in a very strong position, but that's a great move by David Miller, coming off a very good win. He said he feels so confident after winning the 3 days of La Panna, after winning the individual time trial there as well. It's as if he's got a renaissance.
33 years of age and a totally different rider now. He's really finding his rebirth. You're absolutely right, Paul. He's never had a good finish in the Tour of Flanders, but his confidence cannot be dented, and clearly to go at this stage of the race at 35 kilometres out, he is feeling very good indeed. If the boys won't help him, he's going to go by himself.
Well, he obviously feels, you know, when you're a professional bike rider, you feel in a group when all of a sudden the impetus and the desire to chase has gone out of it, and he's seen that. He knows who the 2 guys are in front. I think everybody in the world of professional cycling knows who the 2 guys are in front, and he's decided to have a crack.
So Eisel is now trying, another favourite here, trying to have a go. But this is the group further back, and Lance Armstrong right on his back wheel. This is the 3rd group behind the first group behind Miller group at the moment. So I'm not sure how Eisel got himself back here, but he missed the split.
Well, he did, but he's a rider who won't give up either, and it's amazing to see how a lot of the teams now are starting to be reduced in numbers, and that's why this race is certainly far from done.
Well, looking at the way Lance Armstrong is riding, he's riding as well as I've ever seen him ride in this event, in all honesty. So as we look here, this is Group 3 on the road. We've got 2 leaders. David Miller trying to make contact. Lance Armstrong still far from out of touch at the moment. There we are, Berend Dries. We're ticking the climbs off now, and they're still clear here by 25 seconds. Tom Bonen is now dancing on those pedals. The concentration of the Swiss champion just behind him here. And David Miller is slowly but surely crossing the gap. At least he's leaving behind the rest of the race, but I don't think he's closing the gap.
Well, this is the time to do it on the slopes of a climb like the Berend Dries if he can. And looking down there, you can see that now this is the big move by Tom Bonen, Fabian Cancellara. They've been in the lead now for a good 11 kilometres and still 33 kilometres to go, and big climbs ahead of them. Berend Dries, which they're on, followed by Ten Bos, but then of course followed by the one that scares everybody, the Muur de Grammont or the Kappelmuur, and the final one of the day, the Bosberg.
And that's when we might see the decisive move, or have we already seen the first move made today with the attack by Bonen and Cancellara. David Miller has felt it's the one because he's had to leave the rest of the chase and try and cross the gap by himself. Stein de Volder is in this group, but he's hampered now. He can't do much about it. Armstrong is not far off reaching it, along with Bernard Eisel. And Philippe Gilbert is here. But they're looking like guys who are setting the pace, but they've got to think of attacking now. They can't just set the pace.
Well, this is the group of Armstrong. There's Armstrong over on the right-hand side. That is their third group on the road. This is the second group on the road again, Gilbert. He wants to jump across that gap. He's panicking, but have a quick look at the gap there, Phil. It's 50 seconds to the Armstrong group, 25 seconds to this group, and still the 2 leaders are building on their advantage.
Well, I think it's 51 to this group. I think they're calling Miller a group in between now.
It could be.
So it's nearly a minute sped. Miller's made the right move, I feel, but can he get across? The master time trialist who won a time trial stage of the Tour of Spain last year. He sewed up the 3 days of the Panna with a great time trial on the last day on Sunday. Now, can he time trial to the 2 strongest men in the race so far, Tom Bonen and Fabian Cancellara? There is Miller, and he's been joined very rapidly here. Well, Gilbert's got him.
Well, Gilbert has gone for this. He knows this is a big chance to try and get himself across the gap. And Miller, I think as soon as he saw that man coming across, thought, well, I could do with a bit of help, because it's a long ride across this gap to the 2 leaders, Cancellara and Bonen.
Well, Loikemans are back on Soleil. It's always the way, isn't it? When you don't get selected for the Tour de France, then you show the organisers how good you really are. But Bjorn Loikemans here has got onto the back with Gilbert. And now 3 are surely better than 1. Give Miller a rest now and start to try and work together and make it 5 strong men in the lead. There we are. Left the 2 leaders, right the 3 chasers. The sped is 32 seconds. They're still pulling away, so it's up to Gilbert to add some impetus.
Well, 6 kilometres now separate the 2 climbs. Its next climb of the day is going to be the Ten Bos, and that's what these 2 riders will try and do. They try and build on their advantage, but they are so much stronger on the cobblestone sections, the 2 riders we're looking at on the left, and on the climbs, and that's where they keep building their advantage. The gaps are prizing open slowly. 32 seconds to the Miller group, 44 seconds further back.
Well, that's the shortcut for you. A little bit of a bunny hop and back onto the road by a man that lives on these very roads of Belgium, Tom Bonen. Cancellara wondered where he'd gone there for a moment. Let's take another look at this then. As you see the flag, they're turning into a tailwind. Is there anybody who can nail these 2 back now before the finish? Well, here the finishing line, the women's race has finished, and it was a victory for the girl in the centre here, Grace Verbeek. Little bit of an upstage there because she beat Marianne Vos on the left and Kirsten Wild on the right. Vos will be the new leader, though, of the Women's World Cup. We are now on the climb of Ten Bos. We're ticking them off. We've got the Bosberg, the Muur de Grammont still to come. The climb of Ten Bos, and Paul, is like opening a can of worms. We're slowly prizing that lid off. It's now 52 seconds to the chase group of Miller, Loikemans and Gilbert, and the Hincapie group now has gone back to 74 seconds.
Well, it's Fabian Cancellara on the front, 171, the national champion of Switzerland. First time in his career he actually has won the road race national championships. But do you think the Belgians are happy that their national champion is in the lead?
Well, they feared, well, they're very happy that they're national champions in the lead, but they feared this national champion at the back in red at the start. He was on the mouths of every Belgian spectator, the one man they felt could spoil the party today. Well, neither's let anybody down at the moment. They have shown us to be the two strongest riders by the very manner in which they've broken clear with 44 kilometres to go. David Miller's got himself a little working group there, but they're not getting any closer. In fact, to the contrary, they're losing ground.
I have to say, I felt that Cancellara was looking a little bit smoother there on the slopes of that climb than Tom Boonen. Boonen using a bigger gear, using the power that he has, but he is a powerful rider. Cancellara looking a lot more supple, and that would indicate that he may well be the strongman when it comes through to the Mur de Grammont, and that climb is in 10 kilometres time.
And I think that's the answer. I can't go to the finish line with Tom Boonen. I think Boonen will take him. He's got to leave him. And I think he's right. It's got to be on the Muir.
He's got to get rid of Tom Boonen. Boonen is a bunch sprinter. He knows how to sprint, whether it's from a one-man, two-man group or a bigger group. But that, I think, has got to be the scenario for Fabien Cancellara. He's got to try and put the nail in the coffin of Tom Boonen on the slopes of the Mur de Grammont.
Well, this is the third group on the road at the moment. They're about 20 seconds, if that, behind. The Miller group just over 20 seconds according to the clock. George Hincapie working very hard just in front of camera there. This is the second group now. Miller is still working with Philippe Gilbert and Bjorn Leukemans. Leukemans finished 8th in this Tour of Flanders last year, while the man at the back finished 3rd, Philippe Gilbert. And who knows, he could be racing, well, he is racing with 3rd at the moment, and he could well go himself on the Mur de Grammont.
Well, Leukemans also a rider who finished 4th in Paris-Roubaix back in 2007, so he's no stranger to the classic cobbles, and that's why he's managed to slip into this move. It has got firepower, but it doesn't seem to have the dedication that the two men at the front have. They're, I think, probably feel resigning themselves to ride for 3rd place.
I'm beginning to get the feeling they got very close. Miller got close on his own within 23 seconds of these two. But then it all went a little bit wrong, and I think he realised on the long straight roads he wasn't getting any closer. Now it's 55, but they're holding at 55. They haven't really lost anything this last couple of kilometres. Tom Boonen just doing enough to keep the pace up here, but it's Cancellara who is driving on. When he finished the World Championship road race, he sat on the floor of the finishing line last October in Mendrisio, virtually in tears, because he was in Switzerland. He wanted so much that World Road title. He'd easily taken the time trial title, but it was the road title he wanted. Cadel Evans rode away with it. Cancellara was a broken man. You could literally have fallen over him. He was lying on the finishing line for 20 minutes.
Very emotional. He was probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest rider in the event, and I think, Phil, everybody knew that, and everybody marked him and matched him, and that is sometimes why it's very difficult to win races in the sport of professional cycling, because not always does the strongest man win. But I have to say, I think we are looking at the two strongest men here.
I feel that the way they went, the riders were there to go with them, and they simply could not do it. Two great cyclists with big reputations now showing us really what they're made of here. Swapping turns at the front, but 3 seconds back to the advantage of the chasers. They've got it down to 52. It is not done for yet. I just feel that Gilbert will try one of his famous lone attacks towards the finish, and who knows what will happen then. I just get the feeling that Boonen is not feeling as good as Cancellara.
Well, Cancellara looks better, I'd have to say, and Boonen is strong because he led a very strong ascent there with that previous climb, the climb of 10 Boss. But Cancellara just looks more relaxed. His pedaling style is smoother. It's much more supple, although he's a man who's also got a big engine inside that body of his, and I think he's got the ability to make the difference on the Mur de Grammont, and that's where he's going to try something special. With 23 kilometres to go, we're around about 7 kilometres to go to the Mur de Grammont.
Well, both riders at 29 years of age here, as they just in complete tandem. The team cars are now with them. Boonen looks for his concentration, wondering, I think, how am I going to beat this guy? What will I do if he launches a big attack? Well, I think at 51 seconds, yes, the chasers are nosing the way back in, but the front of the race is very much here, and we've still got the Mur de Grammont to come. 22 kilometres to go for the two leaders. The gap is narrowly down again. 50 seconds for the three chasers of Miller, Gilbert and Bjorn Leukemans. But is there any way of stopping the two national champions steamrolling the roads of Flanders today?
I'll tell you what, Phil, these boys are not going to slow down, and they are not going to weaken. That gap is still pegged, though, at around about the 50-second margin to the two riders behind, and maybe if Philippe Gilbert has got anything in those legs of his, he can make a move and try and bridge it on the run into the finish from the Mur de Grammont. But these are two strong riders. They're the V8s of the sport of professional cycling, although sometimes I think that looking at Fabian Cancellara, he could very well be a V12.
Now, how are they thinking, Paul? I mean, they know what the Mur de Grammont is like. They've ridden it before, and they know what's going to come. They're going to hit each other with everything they've got left in the ammunition box. They're going to be very nervous. These are the three chasers. They're holding at 50 seconds, and they're pulling away from the chase group.
The chase group containing George Hincapie there in the white shorts, champion of the United States, riding very well after a fourth place finish just recently in the Ghent-Wevelgem race. And in the blue jersey there and the blue shorts, you can just get a chance to see that the man who won this race last year is playing the position of teammate to the man in the lead, Tom Boonen.
Yes, and it's confirmed there it is Maxim Iglinski in the light blue Astana colours. And as much as I'd love to have seen Scott Davis up here, I was a bit surprised when I thought it was him, but it isn't. The big favourite for Team Sky has made that split there, which is Juan Antonio Fletcher, the only man from Sky left in that group. But does it matter now? Because there are at a minute 23 of these two riders who virtually advertised the attack, but then nobody could go with them on the Molenberg. Cancellara, Boonen was very alert, very ready for it, and quickly marked the attack by the Swiss.
Well, the toughness of prizing out this advantage, Phil, was the fact that they were only at 15 to 20 seconds in front of a very big group of riders for over 10 kilometres. Yeah. It was only after that 10-kilometre chase that it started to prize out by a few seconds at a time, and it's only really in the last few kilometres that it stretched up to this 53-second mark.
Well, it's slipped back to the chasers now. They've gone from 50 to 53, so the reverse is happening again. These boys just getting on with the job now. Once they've decided they've cracked everybody else, they're going to have to start thinking how they're going to crack each other. That's the next question. And looking at the way they're riding, marginally for me, the stronger of the two is Cancellara. But of course, if it comes to a sprint, then I'd start putting the money on Tom Boonen. So I feel Cancellara has got to crack Boonen on the Mur de Grammont.
Well, that is what 51 seconds looks like from the air. Those are the three chasers, Gilbert, Lukemans and David Miller, riding an exceptionally good race in what most people, Phil, I would say, would regard as the autumn of his career, because he's much closer to the end of it than the beginning. But he has ridden extremely well this season.
Absolutely fabulous, and the confidence is there. If he just gets even third or fourth, heavens above, that would be a major result for David. Absolutely outstanding for Garmin Transitions as well. So Miller's been a credit to the race so far. Philippe Gilbert will try to go alone. He doesn't really pack a great sprint, although he hasn't been unknown to win big sprints. But he'll have to take Miller on and join Leukemans. And I would fancy probably Leukemans would get the sprint of those three, but we'll see. There's the journey through the trees now, as we try to pick out the three chasers. It looks a lot further from that level, doesn't it? 51 seconds. It's down to 47 according to the screen. So they're getting themselves into gear again. It's not done for yet. This is the third group on the road, containing George Hincapie, Juan Antonio Fletcher, and last year's winner, Steyn de Volder and Lee Foster.
That banner there indicating 20 kilometres to go to the finish, 12 miles of racing, and that little ridge, the dark ridge you can see in the background, that is the climb of Grammont. The Mur de Grammont goes straight up it.
So 18 kilometres to go. Just around the corner is the Mur de Grammont, and believe me, something's going to happen on the wall today, believe it.
Climbing the Mur it's one of the hardest races in the world. Your body is just completely exhausted.
Your body is burning, your legs are burning.
Been pounded around the whole day, fighting for position. It's been cold, it's been hot. You get to the Mur and you know that you got about 20k to go, and just know that you gotta make it over. That's where you gotta make your move. It just really depends on how you're feeling that day.
In Belgium, it's crazy with all the fans there, so it's really a big moment in the race.
I know that there are so many people and they are crying, but you can't hear it.
The crowds are insane, they're incredible, but when you get there, you barely notice it because you're just digging so deep.
We are on the climb of the Muur de Grammont. There's the statistics, 9.3%, but look at the maximum gradient, almost 20%, or 1 in 5. And that's where the strong man will out. And it's just before we get up to the chapel. Cancellara has set the pace from the bottom so far.
It's a long time since we've seen two great champions like this battle it out. Now the TV cameras will probably get pulled off to the left-hand side, and no, they've gone through. This is the start of the Muur de Grammont. Oh, they've got them anyway. Good organisation there. We're on to fixed cameras now because we're on this very narrow part of the climb. It starts to get steeper once they start to move around to the left-hand side. This is the right-hand bend. Once they swing to the left, it really kicks in, and that's where it measures out at 20%.
Well, the crowd are lining the roads. They've been waiting 3 hours here to watch these two come through. They're seeing the champion of Belgium and the champion of Switzerland. David Miller in the spot of bother there now as he unhitches from the three chasers on the climb. That's a shame. But now, is anybody going to find the strength to go? Tom Bonen has gone up to the front now to stamp on those pedals. A little reminder perhaps to Cancellara.
Well, he's trying to show Cancellara there's nothing wrong with me, mate. There's no weakness in Tom Bonen here this afternoon, and if you want to attack me here, I'm going to just show you how much I've got left in these legs of mine. There's a move now by Philippe Gilbert. That's 3rd and 4th on the road. David Miller just trying to survive. The top of the climb, Phil, is at 16 kilometres to go. This is the steep part. This is where the cobbles are rough. They're horrible. The bike is bouncing, and this is the move by Cancellara.
The acceleration of Fabian Cancellara. He's picked up the cadence. Tom's in trouble now. That's an incredible acceleration by Fabian Cancellara, but Tom Bonen knows he's just got to keep him in sight over the top. He'll recatch him if he can, but look at the show of strength by the champion of Switzerland. Look at that gap.
That was an acceleration. That was the steepest part of the climb. That was the 20% gradient, but Tom Bonen now will fight. He will die. He will turn himself inside out, Phil, to try and win this bike race for a 3rd time in his career. But the man who may well spoil the party for the Flanders is the Swiss champion, the man who's just flown the coupe, Cancellara.
Now, what an option for Tom Bonen now. He's now got to pursue the World Time Trial champion and the Olympic Time Trial champion all the way to the finish. So that is not something for the weak-willed, is it? But if anybody's up for it now, Bonen is. Look at the gap he has opened. How did he do that?
He went bang and bang again, and he really turned on the pressure. He looked as if he was extremely supple, and all of a sudden he took it up, Phil, from 40 kilometres an hour to 50 kilometres an hour, and this man now is possessed. And I don't think Bonen is going to see this man again because, as you've said, time trial champion of the world and of the Olympic Games.
Well, he's given us some great moments. Philippe Gilbert, he needs to do exactly the same right here now. He won't want to take Bjorn Leukemans to the finish either. Gilbert was 3rd last year, and can he repeat the feat this time around? Back down the group, Iglinski is alongside Steen de Volder just there. George Hincapie is the man setting the pace with Fletcher on his back wheel. This is going to be a tough one, and in 4th place there too you've got Martin Weinens, who did the job earlier on to pave the way for Bonen to get out front.
De Volder in that group as well, and he's defending for his teammates, and he probably realises now, whoops, maybe they backed the wrong man. 16 seconds is the gap between Cancellara and Tom Bonen, and I wonder, with the gap between the Muur de Grammont and the Bosberg, if Bonen has got enough time to pull it back.
Well, Sebastian Langeveld also beginning to struggle just a little bit here as we join the hot pursuit now of two of the greatest riders in the world of the one-day classics. Cancellara is delivering a gem today. He has been ultimately the strongest. He had to get rid of Bonen on the climb of the Muur. He's got an enormous gap already, 18 seconds. Sit back and enjoy the greatest time trialist in action.
Well, he's in that time trial position. Look at that. He's not got the clip-on bars that they ride in individual time trials, but he's got his arms right in the middle of the handlebars. He won't look back at all, Phil. He will ride his own individual time trial. I'm sure this has gone through his mind over the last few months. He's been thinking about this. He's been dreaming about this, being in the lead inside of the last 16 kilometres of Flanders.
What a prospect. 15 kilometres he's chosen to go alone. When they attacked originally, they chose 45 kilometres to go in tandem. He's flicking through the chicanes here as if he's driving an F1 racing car. Cancellara is on full fire today. He has given us some great moments in the world of cycling these past few years. This is going to go down as one of the best.
Well, did you see the way? This is the acceleration. Just watch this again. He's got a very low gear in, and all of a sudden he takes the cadence up from 80 revolutions a minute to 100 revolutions a minute, and bang, that's the moment that Tom Bonen cracked. He's trying everything he can here to try and stay in contact, but all of a sudden the gap was gone.
So the gauntlet is on the floor. The World Time Trial champion is free to fly. He's got 13 kilometres to go. We are on the lower slopes of the Bosberg. It's not very long, it's less than a kilometre, and there's the banner, the Fabian Cancellara Club. They knew where to stand.
They certainly did. Look at this man powering. He's eating the cobblestones. He's battering out an infernal rhythm here on this final climb of the day, and every kilometre or every metre he goes, he's extending that advantage over Bonin. It's now 39 seconds. The champion of the world in the individual time trial, the Olympic champion from Beijing, I think, Phil, is going to achieve his goal of the season here this afternoon. Team managers coming up alongside him.
Well, it's not for the sake of advertising it. He's told everybody what he was going to do, and he's had the strength to put it home here. As he continues now, 12 kilometres to go, 42 seconds and gaining. This is now Tom Bonin getting onto the same steep slope as he sees Fabian Cancellara's name on the left of the road there now. Meanwhile, coming up towards the summit, he's gritting his teeth, but with every pedal rev, he's heading to victory.
Well, Phil, just cast your mind back to when he had his mechanical incident, because all of the Belgian press this morning told us if you've got a mechanical problem in between the climbs on the way to the Molenberg, you're out of this race. He had a mechanical problem there. His mechanic probably made the best bike change he's ever made in his mechanic's career. It was an 8-second bike change, and Cancellara was back in the race. Now he's in the front of the race. The Bosberg has been crested. The king of the Bosberg today, the boss of the Bosberg, is Cancellara.
The face of Tom Bonin here. Any other country apart from his home nation, he'd have probably sat up and waited for the chasers, but this is Belgium. He's the champion of Belgium, but he's being put in his place today by the champion of Switzerland. And tell you what, too, there's another little record in the making now, because there's only ever been one winner from Switzerland in this race, and it was Henri Suter. And the year, Paul, 1923. Even I wasn't here.
That has been a very long wait for Switzerland to get that victory this afternoon, but Bonin won't give up. He can't give up. He's the champion of Belgium, but I tell you what, it looks as if Philippe Gilbert and Lukemans are getting that little bit closer to him, because Bonin hasn't quite crested this climb of the Bosberg.
Well, you know, once the elastic is snapped, he might well slow down here, and Gilbert might well close in on him. Tom Bonin no longer looking fluid. I didn't feel he was actually looking too fluid when he was in the breakaway. He didn't like to do all the pacemaking with Cancellara, because he knew what would happen. He'd be hit on the Mur de Grammont. The British flag flying down there. Nice to see the Union flag, and David Miller sadly just been dropped by Gilbert and Bjorn Lukemans here.
Yeah, but in Tom Bonin's defence, Phil, he was in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely.
He was in the move. But what can you do when you come up against a man who is hyper-motivated for a bike race like this, and who is a great individual time trialist and a powerhouse?
The top of the Bosberg, well, there's no doubt who the boss is, and that is the leader on the road by some distance now, Fabian Cancellara. Those what appear to be slightly built calf muscles stamping out the rhythm on yet another road in another foreign country, and the road to victory now. A minute 28 to the duo who are chasing Tom Bonin, 56 back to Tom Bonin, and Fabian Cancellara will just keep going and not thinking of anything other than speed.
It's quite easy now, Phil, to wind back the videotape and have a look at the work that has been done by Team Saxo Bank. They knew this morning when they came out what their man had in his legs and in his heart this afternoon. That's why O'Grady did the work. That's why everybody else did the work to set this up.
Yep, and they'll be the first to congratulate him when they finish, because they're a long way behind now, but that was always their plan, was to see their favourite launched into orbit. The man who will never give up today, Tom Bonin, Easter Sunday in Belgium, 10 kilometres to go. That'll be for the leader, and there he goes. 10 kilometres, 6 miles to the world time trial champion. What's it going to take him? About
12 minutes,
12
I reckon.
minutes at the most. Have you included the uphill finish?
I've included the uphill
12 minutes
finish,
to go.
But the speed of this man, he will be not very far short of 55 kilometres an hour on his run into the finish this afternoon. He knows all about, look how he keeps getting himself low and looking at the gears. He will have the pain going through those legs, but when you're in a position like this, when you've got a minute advantage in the Tour of Flanders, which is your goal and your dream, you can push that pain just a little bit further back. You can hold it just a little bit longer than you might have been if you were in second position on the road.
Well, we are missing Tom Bonin joining the famous 4 people who have won this race 3 times. Arkiel Buis, Eric Le Mans, Fioreni Magni, Johan Museo was the last one to win 3, 93, 95 and 98. But we are witnessing now only the second Swiss cyclist in history to win this race, and the first since 1923. Unthinkable.
Certainly unthinkable. That's the gap, the secure gap that he's got over the second man in the race, Tom Bonin. That's a long, wide road, winding road to Bonin. Boonen, and I think Boonen will continue to try and stay in front because he's got the pride and he will want to hold on to a guaranteed second place rather than waiting to Philippe Gilbert and Bjorn Leukemans.
He's got to stick to his guns now. He can't allow anybody to come up because that will affect him wholesalely. He doesn't look like a man who's waiting for anybody right now. He's got time in his hand. 37 seconds on the two chasers behind him.
He will have to fight. He'll turn his body inside out, but this man still looks fluid and still looks calm. There's no signs of any weakness at all. Sitting a little bit forward on his saddle there. That's to try and get as much power as he can into those thighs of his, as you often say, are turning into great bicycle pistons to push him along at almost 50 kilometers an hour on this stretch.
He's almost relaxing here now as he rides down the centre of the road. He's certainly been a proud man wearing that National Road Champions jersey for the first time in his life. He's been time trial champion a couple of times in Switzerland, at least a couple of times, but road champion.
More than a couple of times. But yes, he was extremely proud to win the road racing title, to take that jersey through to the Tour de France, to ride the big mountains of the Tour with that over on his shoulders. And as a great champion, he can turn it around and work for his teammates, or on an individual basis, he can ride for himself when need be. Let's not forget, he was a man who championed the Tour of Switzerland last year as well.
Yes, he did. They said it wasn't very mountainous, and it wasn't, but he was still the best rider in it. 55 seconds, nosing away from Tomaca. Tomaca's certainly going to have to just worry about the approach of those behind, but he's getting away from them behind. He's now 46 seconds ahead of the chasing duo, so Tom is actually pulling away from his pursuers, and it is going to be a tremendous result, this.
Well, he now has got to just calculate his effort. He's now got a very secure margin over Tom Boonen. It's creeping up to the 1 minute margin, but he's got to make sure that he rides a good line around these roads, because these roads can be very deceptive. There can be danger around any corner. There can be a broken piece of cobblestone which will fracture the front wheel, and that can change the whole dynamics of the event.
So as they continue, 56 seconds to the second group, a minute 42 to Bjorn Leukemans and Philippe Gilbert. Well, the Belgians have been very much in the frame all day today, and that's always good for this race because the fans just love their sport. As we're looking now at Fabian Cancellara. 55 seconds the gap, 7 kilometers to go. Surely no one's going to spoil his day today. Well, that's where the riders are now bound, the finishing straight here in Meyerbeek, where we're commentating from. It's all action, and the big finale is coming your way right after this. Under 4 kilometers to go for Fabian Cancellara. The sun is on his left shoulder now. Perhaps it won't rain after all, even though it's quite dark. He is time trialing to one of his greatest victories. Yes, he's won Milan San Remo. Yes, he has won Paris-Roubaix. But today, throughout the day, he's shown us he was the best rider in the Tour of Flanders.
And let's not forget the team, because we often talk about the individual in cycling, Phil, but the team today, very early on, over 140 kilometers to go, the team came to the front at all the dangerous strategic points and set out a pace to make sure that Fabian Cancellara was not caught out in any accidents, not caught out in any crashes at the side of the road. They wanted to make his ride as safe as possible until he took control of the reins at the front of the race, with over 25 miles to go to the finish.
These are the two chasers. Sadly, they've got rid on the Mur de Grammont of David Miller of Garmin Transitions. We don't know where he is now. We've run out of cameras to take you any further back. But Philippe Gilbert looking to finish third for a second year in a row. Cancellara here with the black sky above him, just lightening the load just a little bit now as he heads up towards the finish. He's got inside about 3.5 kilometers to go. This is a huge result as well, Paul, for Saxo Bank. They're desperate for a big result, and this is a big result.
Huge result. 3 kilometers to go, but just have a look at the body style here of Cancellara. Gets so low on his machine, extremely aerodynamic. His torso at the top is not moving. You can see as we look back here to the black clouds of Belgium above him, getting rid of all the food. He doesn't need to eat anything with 3 kilometers to go, but just have a look at the smoothness of the style of his pedaling. It is so fluid. He's ticking out a very big gear. He's inside of the 50 kilometers an hour average speed here. Now he's relaxed. He's over a minute ahead of everybody else in this race that he has dreamed about since the start of this season.
It makes you think he's just finding it so easy right now, but he's got the feeling of victory now welling up inside him. He's going to live this moment as he heads up to the finish in Meerbecker. Nobody can catch him now. 65 seconds to Tom Bonen. Almost 2 minutes now to the chasing duo behind. Fabian Cancellara has had incredible wins in his life, but this one is going to be very high up in his best ever victories.
He will cherish this one, Phil. This is the one. It's very difficult for a bike rider, especially in the sport that we commentate on a lot, to predict a race that you're going to win. That's the gap between second on the road and first on the road. The cavalcade of cars there are supporting and following the champion of Switzerland, the Fabian Cancellara. It looks very close on the camera, but it's over a minute.
Well, he's settled down now for a long time. So we're looking at a rider who has worn the yellow jersey in the Tour de France on 14 different occasions in the Tour de France. He's won 4 stages of that great race. He's won 2 stages of the Vuelta a España, where he's wore the golden jersey on 4 occasions there. But now he's spearheading the Tour of Flanders home, and he's being chased by the champion of Belgium, who still refuses to give up. I'm not sure now whether he's thinking of chasing to catch or to stay away from those chasing to catch him.
He knows he can't catch this man now, Phil, at 2 kilometres to go. The smoothness is completely different to the punchy style of Tom Bonen in second position on the road. This man hasn't shown any weakness at all yet. I think there's going to be quite a big party at Team Saxo Bank tonight.
Just bet on it, as Fabian Cancellara now comes into the streets of Meerbecker and Ninove. He'll shortly make, this is not the right turn, this is onto the main road. There'll be a right turn off this up towards the finishing straight, and he'll have all the time in the world. Time no longer matters now. He can wave at the crowd. There we are, 1 kilometre to the finish. Fabian Cancellara, the first Swiss rider ever to win this race since Henri Suter back in 1923. I don't know whether, well, his parents wouldn't have been born, never mind Fabian Cancellara. And all time for smiles. Oh, I think I'll just have a snack now. What's this? Now, I don't know whether that's a little message back to his wife Stephanie or his daughter Juliana, but one thing's for sure, Cancellara is the champion today, and as always with Fabian, he's done it in style.
Let's have a look at that again. Very nice move.
Well, it's not an Easter bunny, it looks like a little angel. That might be his daughter.
Well, it's probably for Juliana. He's calling the team manager up now. I don't think he's got any mechanical problems. He can now, Phil, enjoy the final kilometre of this race as he swings into the finishing straight. It's a long finishing straight, a famous finishing straight. It's slightly uphill, and he will be able to enjoy this because he's shaking his head there.
Wonderful.
He doesn't believe he's done it.
Absolutely wonderful feeling. Bjarne Riis and Kim Anderson are in that car there. Congratulate him. Job done. But this has been a special job. This has been an absolute show of strength by a man who has given us so many shows of strength over the years. The generous Belgian crowd applaud a real champion today in every way. Olympic time trial, world time trial, Swiss road race champion, and now the winner with the Swiss flag. The first man since 1923 from Switzerland, and only the second in the long history of this great event, the Ronde. Fabian Cancellara takes victory. Tom Bonen will be up shortly.
Well, he will, but you know, this is a great performance, and the Belgians understand they've witnessed a very heroic bike race here this afternoon. Cancellara breathes out now, and he can relax because his mechanicals are all behind him. Any chance of losing this bike race behind him now? He has come out the winner, and the accolades of victory.
Now, as the crowd will mob him, the press are in there. There's Bruno, the photographer, and big congratulations from the team. It was all so worthwhile in the end. That team worked so well today. Their pace setting by O'Grady and Kurt Attelarvis. Well, he's not on the team anymore, but he was last year. He'd be sorry now, won't he? As we go back and concentrate now on the arrival of Tom Bonen, who does his zip up. He'll get a big applause from the crowd because he played every card he had. Today it wasn't good enough. On any other day, it probably would have won him his 3rd Tour of Flanders. He'll be disappointed, but he's still a great champion, and he gave it just about all he had to finish second. He's going to smile. Don't let me down now, Tom, because as he comes home, all the flags are out of Belgium on Easter Sunday. Tom Bonen, little wave, comes home in 2nd place.
Well, if he did lose the race, Phil, he lost it in a fighting manner. Listen to the crowd there. That's their champion. And he crosses the line. He fought well today. He was in the right place at the right time, but he just came up against a Fabian Cancellara who was on exceptional form.
Now we just want to see if Philippe Gilbert can complete today for Belgium and get third place. The man who was third last year is going to have a bit of a sprint on his hands with Bjorn Jokemans, but he's got himself in the right position as they now swing up into the home straight, and only just, by the way, because there is the race there for 5th place as it will be. So they must have swept up poor David Miller, dropped on the Muur de Grammont. Jokemans, who had 8th place finish last year, whatever happens now is going to be better. He's got to lead out Gilbert. Gilbert actually can pack a sprint finish when it matters, and Philippe Gilbert is going to go through on the inside. 3rd last year and 3rd this year as he runs away. Only last night he was saying he was going to go to bed early on a bowl of pasta. Well, it's worked again for him. Gilbert is home in 3rd place. Bjorn Jokemans gets 4th, and now the sprint for 5th.
Well, Gilbert knew that the move was going. He tried so very hard to get across to it. Jokemans in 4th place coming up there to the finish line. It's going to be a big sprint there for Bernard Eisel over on the right-hand side to try and get 5th.
And not a bad result here as Eisel is taking on Tyler Farrer here, and it might be Farrer who finishes off, and he comes up to the line. Tyler Farrer is getting another big result, challenged right on the line by George Hincapie, but I'll give that to Farrer, and Hincapie probably over the line in 6th.
Well, that was a big sprint by Farrer, and Eisel was trying to get himself a good final to the day, but what a great day.
So there is the result confirmed. Fabien Cancellara wins today ahead of Tom Bone and Philippe Gilbert, both from Belgium. Jokemans also a Belgian in 4th place. Tyler Farrar out sprinting his countryman George Hincapie for 5th place. Roger Hammond, best ever performance by him in 7th. And the top 10 completed by William Bonnet of France. Well, let's have a look now at the Subaru ride of the day, and there was only one real ride at the end of course, the final attack by Fabien Cancellara on the Muur de Grammont as he picked up the cadence. Tom Bonen got out of the saddle, gritted his teeth and simply lost ground. The world champion at the time trial rode away, and that is our Subaru ride of the day. Well, he may be Swiss, he may have beaten 2 Belgians to the 1st place, but the crowd have given him an enormous cheer and applause here. Fabien Cancellara wins the Tour of Flanders. On the right as we look, we see Philippe Gilbert, who took 3rd, and the champion of Belgium, Tom Bonen, who just didn't quite have the answer to that incredible attack on the Muur de Grammont. So he's had some wonderful, wonderful victories throughout his history as a cyclist, but this is going to go down in the history books, I think, and he needs to do a bit of weight training classes, because just look at the size of the trophy, which he can hardly pick up, but he's got it up now. Fabien Cancellara, the champion of Switzerland, and on this occasion today, he's also the champion of Belgium. Well, Paul Sherwin has now left my side here, and here he is talking to Fabien Cancellara.
Fabien, at the start of the season, at the training camp, you said there's one race I want to win this year. It's the Tour of Flanders.
Yeah, and the goal, the dream is true, but I need for sure a few more minutes or hours to realize. Because, I mean, in the way I won and to be on the start as a huge favorite, that's not easy. A lot of pressure on, but I learned from my mistakes I made in this race, in other races, and I think that's the secret of today.
Were you concerned to have Tom Bonen with you, and did you realize you had to make a move on the Muur de Grammont because you couldn't take him to the finish in the sprint?
Since last week, I think about like when we was together. I mean, what I'm gonna do again, like last week, but this. It was not a real attack. It was I pushed the gear less, and then I went like steady up with more speed, and then I hit on the radio is a gap, and then I pushed again more, and then was time trial to the end, and a really beautiful moment.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, he's such a gentleman, isn't he, Fabien Cancellara? And he really is a credit to the sport. What a great champion today. Well, he didn't quite make the victory, Tom Bonen, but he's still the champion of Belgium and of the people here. Now, Paul Sherwin's been running around like a rabbit. Here he is now speaking with Tom Bonen.
Tom, you came up against a very tough Cancellara today. Was there anything you could do?
I stay in his wheel.
It's a difficult position to finish second, especially for a Belgian in Flanders.
Yeah, but I'm happy after all. At the Muur I was feeling good, and he passed me, and I wanted to speed up, and I had a little bit problem with my leg, a little cramp. And afterwards I found my rhythm again, and I was riding 55 km an hour, and I wasn't coming any closer. And I think, yeah, if you lose on a Cancellara in this shape, it's not a really bad thing.
Well, at the end of the day, Tom Boonen had to feel a little bit as though he was a beaten man when the best time trialist got away from him. But I can tell you, off camera and behind the finishing line after the two finished, they hugged each other. It was a very special moment. Well, that about ends what was a real classic race today, the Tour of Flanders. And next week, of course, we have the queen of the classics, Paris-Roubaix. That will come to your screens right here on Versus at 6 Eastern timing. And, of course, we're going to see the same names in action again. And if we get a race just to equal this one, it is going to make some great television. Don't miss it. 6 Eastern time, Paris-Roubaix, right here on Versus. A full schedule log as well. Just come on to Versus.com. You'll find all the bonus interviews there from Flanders, and we did what we didn't get to show you, we'll try and add in there. There's also coverage of Bob Key's Beef and a video preview of next week's Paris-Roubaix. Well, it was a great victory today for Fabian Cancellara. He's won a race we'll remember for many, many years to come. But for the moment, from here in Flanders, next week we'll see you in France at Roubaix. Until then, from Paul Sherwin and me, Phil Liggett, goodbye.